Okay, a few considerations for making a bracket, a permanent bracket on this generator that will allow me to just, it'll be on it all the time. I won't have to finagle with putting, you know, straps on it or whatever. One of the reasons I want to do it so it's always on there, so it's faster when I go to load it, but also the lift height for the crane when I put it on here with the camper shell door up only comes up so high. So I don't want a lot of slack between my hook on that and the generator. I want the generator as close to the hook as possible. So the hook that I'm using is this. It's a small hook, but that distance between there and there is 3/4 of an inch, or a little bit bigger than 3/4. So I've got to make a bracket that will not only stay out of the way of that, which is not quite in the middle, it's a little bit offset. The middle is right there, so it's a little bit offset, but I got to make a bracket that'll support it, that'll be strong enough that it won't bend or flex very much, and that I can take off easily if I need to. I was thinking about just welding it on, but I'm going to bolt it on. And also that my hook will be as close to this as possible. So I don't want my hook way up here, you know, with a bunch of straps or whatever. I've done that before and it works, but I want the hook as low as possible with as little give as possible so that I can get this as high up as possible without raising my crane arm way up, because my camper shell door is going to be in the way when that's up. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So just drilling holes here. I've got 3 drilled. This looks like just 1/8. I probably wouldn't use, this is 200 pounds. And so with gasoline in it, it holds 5 gallons or 8 gallons. 5 gallons of gas at 6 pounds per gallon or whatever it weighs, a little less than water, I think, is another 5 times 6 is 30. So 230 pounds if it's full or more. So one of these in the middle, I wouldn't trust 1/8, but 2 of these on each side, I'm going to trust that. I'm going to weld a piece in between here that I'm going to keep as low to this as possible, and then I'll cross drill a hole right here that I can put my hook in right here. Okay, let's make it happen. So I just pilot drilled these with a smaller bit. This is not thick stuff. So hopefully my holes are all perfectly lined up. That never happens to me, but I always hope for that. There's one. And these are a little bit long, but these are the only graded bolt I have at this length. I had some that were perfect length, but they weren't graded. So, and I thought, well, the quality control of non-graded bolts is just questionable in my mind, so we'll go with a little bit longer bolt. I'll just put a couple extra washers on it so I can still put a nut on the end of the threads. Okay, because the nut, or the bolt, actually sticks up a little ways, I can still see threads right there, but that's right at the edge of the threads. So we'll just put a couple washers. Okay, good, those all line up nicely. That'll work well. I'm going to measure this distance here, cut a piece of steel that I can put right here, 1.5 inches thick. I'm going to drop it down a little bit below this, just so it sits right on top of that. Doesn't quite touch it, but sits right on top of it. And then I'll go ahead and drill my 3/4 inch hole in the center of that. So this is a 13/16, so it's just a tiny bit over 3/4. This is 1.5 inches. I don't know, 3/16, I guess. Turn the magnet on right here, and there's the magnet, and then we'll power it up here. There's enough oil on it. I'm probably not even going to turn the oil on for this. magnet off. Okay, perfect 13/16 hole, and this is going to be the upside, so my hook's going to hook in right here. And let's just go make sure the hook goes through it before we go further. Oh yeah, so there's a tiny bit of room down there at the bottom. You can see I probably could have got away with a 3/4 inch hole. But that's okay. All right, let's get it welded in. Tacked in, the thick sides on the upside. Okay. That should hold. Get it brushed off. We'll spray some phosphoric acid on it, Ospo brand phosphoric acid, and then we'll get it painted and get it on. Sweet. Okay, so we got 4 parts to this. That, which is the custom part. This Harbor Freight jack. Of course, I had already made this for the trailer. And then the jack. So let's try it out. We've got a generator here. It's 200 pounds dry. Okay. So that's good so far. Okay, pretty good. So you can see this, for this hook on this Harbor Freight crane, that 3/4 inch hole has a tiny bit of space there, but not much. So that 3/4 inch hole is about right. Seems to do a good job. All right, so I wanted a bracket that on top of the generator that was very low profile, not only so it wouldn't stick up and be in the way of whatever. It's also useful because I can set a couple things on it gently. If I just want to set something down, I can lay it on top of here. But I want a low profile bracket, so when I put my hook in here, the hook would be as close to the generator as possible, so that when I go to lift it and crank it up and use up the cable and the hook goes up to the top of the crane, that there's very little space between the hook and the generator. Okay, so in other words, I run straps between here and here before, and the straps, of course, pull up in this arch like this, and then there's the hook. So that's lifting height that I'm losing. And not that that's critical all the time, but it could be critical, especially with the camper shell door on the back of the truck. So this little bracket is just, I just welded this up and bolted it on. So, and use some graded hardware there. That's a grade 5 bolt. And just a nylon lock nut on the other side, couple wash. 3/4 inch hook, so it fits right in that hole. Just drilled that out with a mag drill. Nice. Welded it up on both sides, and here, and then the top and the bottom as well. And you can see I even made, this is a little bit wider. This is 1.5 inches, and this is probably 1.25 inches. So the extra 1/4 inch I made hang down just a little bit lower here. Now I started to weld it on. I started to make, I thought about several ideas, but I ended up just drilling holes straight through this frame, and one there, obviously in all 4 corners. And it's working well. It's low profile. And so this generator is 200 something pounds dry. And so loaded it's 220 or so, probably in the 220s with gas and oil. Same thing with this little one here. I forget what model this one is. I kind of drilled the hole out a little bit lower just to make this part up here a little beefier. I started to put it right in the middle, but I thought, well, I can make the upper part a little bit beefier because the bottom part's doesn't need to be quite that strong. And of course, I think this is just over 1 inch right here. So that extra steel is sticking out the bottom. Again, this is pretty low profile. So this is about 100 pounds. I don't think these are graded bolts that I used on here, and I'm not too worried about that. I started to cut these off just for cosmetics, but I might want to take this off or put it on sometime. I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But if I cut it off, then I'd have a harder time threading it on. I did bevel these a little bit, makes it a little cleaner look and a little bit nicer. And I just made this wide enough so that I centered this. This was 18 inches, so I marked 9 inches right here, and then used a square. I put the square down here, and then just used the straight edge right here to mark the center right there, and then just measured out that distance, and then copied that distance over here, marked my holes, and then drilled the holes. Yeah, so super easy, not hard, but seems to be pretty substantial. I did use this to lift. I did do a test lift with this with the crane, and it didn't flex, it didn't bend, the frame didn't seem to twist in, it seemed to do just fine. So that's working well.